Hi, welcome back to Title Tiger TV. We are here. Yes. We are known as the Title Tigers of Tampa Bay. One of our biggest Title Tigers here is Dominic McSherry, aka my son. He's here to talk about his process and our team and what he does. It really, from start to finish, is a lot of work to get a transaction ready for closing. And I want you to just kind of walk people through your role in that. First, tell us a little bit about yourself.
24 years old, graduated from USF, and I got the luxury of, working with my family.
Yeah.
I was working in a daycare with Hillsborough County Public Schools.
I know.
And, you guys needed somebody, so
Yep.
it worked out. It was perfect timing, so I was able to.
You started out just as part-time.
Yeah, I was just doing,
Dad and I were like dying. It was just the two of us at the time.
Yeah, you guys were working hard.
Yeah.
And so, so that was nice. I started out just doing policy satisfactions.
Yeah, helping with that.
And then started moving into a, kind of a opening role.
Yep. Data collection.
Putting in contracts, all that good stuff. And then now what I do is title clearing and processing primarily.
Yep.
And the majority of my work comes from the seller's side, and that's the majority of titles work is getting information and ordering things from for sellers. And
I think it's also important to know that you have gotten your title agent's license.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, super excited.
That's a big one for sure.
He's going to help us grow the Assurity Title empire. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what really guides, from the title standpoint, guides our decision making, right? Like, how do we know what needs to be tackled and addressed in any transaction?
So when we put in a title work order with our underwriter, which is Old Republic, they provide us something called a title commitment. And that essentially shows all of the requirements that we need to take care of to be able to close on the transaction.
And issue a title insurance policy.
And issue the policy, correct. And that can, every commitment is different, and there's 100 million different things that can come up on a commitment that you have to take care of.
Right. What do you see most often?
A mortgage.
Right.
Right. In order for us to pay off a mortgage, we have to order what's called a payoff quote from the mortgage company, and there's different types of mortgages, so there's different types of 100 different lenders that you have to contact.
Thousands of lenders.
Of lenders. So if there's a HELOC, home equity line, we make sure that is paid as well and terminated. You always have to make sure it's terminated. But the mortgages are the biggest. That's the most common item that you'll see on a commitment that we have to take care of as a requirement.
Exactly.
Unless you're doing subject to, which is what we talked about previously. In that case, they would take on the mortgage.
Right. In that case, on a subject to, then the mortgage becomes what we call an exception to the title policy. Right? The title insurance policy that we issue is not going to cover anything related to that mortgage that's still reporting on title.
Yeah.
What other items? So a lot of the transactions, what percentage would you say are homestead transactions out of
the majority, for sure?
Majority of them are, right?
A big majority.
People are selling the home that they live in, their primary residence.
Yeah. That's probably 80-85%.
Right. Can code enforcement liens or that sort of thing attach to a homestead property, though?
It can attach, but they can't foreclose.
Right.
So on a homestead property, for code, now obviously if you don't pay your mortgage, they're going to come knocking, and they're, or if you don't pay your HOA dues,
they can
they're
get you
come
too.
knocking.
Make sure you pay this.
If there is a code enforcement lien, that's something that comes up, and I'll call whatever municipality is holding that and ask them, what needs to get done, if there's any money owed, and then we relay that information. And the majority of what we do is relaying information. We're the information holders, and we want to put all the information out to everybody, both parties, so everyone's aware and up to speed on what the situation is. Because the last thing you want to do is almost get to closing, and then a buyer's agent is just finding out that there's an open permit or an expired permit on the property.
Right.
And then that buyer, for example, say they don't want to take on an expired permit, that's when you get into trouble. So our goal is to get as much information as we can and give it to them as quickly as we can, so everyone
Right.
is in the loop. For
And
sure.
you're great too about researching with the county. You probably have them on speed dial
Yeah.
and really providing the seller with what needs to happen.
Yeah.
We can't always close it out because we're the title company and
Correct.
it falls on the responsibility of the seller. But we at least are able to communicate with them who they need to reach out to, what
Exactly.
needs to
Yeah.
happen in the process. Um,
That's really important. Yeah,
it
you gotta, and a lot of title companies don't. They'll just send the seller, hey, you have an expired permit.
right.
But what we do is we actually dig a little bit deeper. I get a lot of information
You
on
do.
different options they have. If an expired permit is on it or a code lien is on it, I'll get all the options on the table and
Right.
give it out to them, so they can decide how they want to take care of it. But at least they have that information. And if you don't do that, a lot of times, sellers, they're not proactive with those kind of things. They don't know how long some of those things can take. So if you don't have the information up front, you run into that situation where we're getting down to the wire.
Right.
Closing's coming up in a week, and this has not been addressed. So it's almost more beneficial for me, so I can rest assured that we won't have to follow up as much. They have
Right.
the information, and we'll be good to go
And that you've
going forward.
communicated that. One of the things that I know that we've been dealing with recently is survey related questions and stuff from lenders and
Yeah.
mortgage brokers. And I think it's important for us to explain, why do we as the title agent need a survey on a regular
Right.
but a financed transaction, right? Because on
Yeah.
a cash deal, we don't necessarily
Yeah.
need,
Not required.
because they're not getting a survey endorsement to their title policy.
Correct. And yeah, so for lenders, they require, and this is the majority of lenders. If it's a hard money lender, most of the times they don't require
Right.
this, but most conventional lenders with conventional loans, they require what's called a Florida Form 9 endorsement.
Yes.
And that is essentially a survey endorsement to their lender's policy, that we're going to be issuing. And so they require that. And so, when we are looking at surveys and we have to provide that endorsement, we always try to get an existing survey from the last closing that happened, whether
If
it's 10
possible.
years ago, whether it's 2 years ago, we always try to get that survey. Granted, the survey has, the property's not changed. There's no new fencing. There's not a new pool that they put in.
Right.
We can send that survey into our underwriter and have it approved. If we get it approved and the buyers would like to use that one, then we can issue that Florida Form 9 endorsement to the lender. But we'll run into a situation where lenders will say, "Well, we don't require a survey," which may
They
be
don't.
true. That may be true. But what they do require is the endorsement. And for us to issue that endorsement, we have to get a accurate current survey
Right.
of the property.
And so, and we've seen this many times too, a survey will come back with an encroachment, right? Let's say I think we just had one recently with a shed, right? That
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
built, and that shed that encroached, right? We can offer a Florida Form 9 clear endorsement to the lender's title policy because our underwriter has approved us
Correct.
for that.
It's not
Because
a permanent. Yeah.
right? But that encroachment will be an exception to the owner's title insurance policy. So our underwriter will kind of, support us in providing what the lender requires in order for closing, which is no survey exceptions, right,
Yeah.
to the policy. So that is probably, what do you think is the biggest challenge in your role?
I would say time management, trying to, because I personally, I love getting people everything they need very quickly.
Yes,
It makes me
you
just
are.
feel good
Yeah.
when I'm able to give give agents and give the sellers and buyers and get everything I can as quick as possible, because sometimes they want to close early.
Yeah.
If we have a closing that's set for a month out, if we're clear to close in a week or a week and a
Yeah.
half, 2 weeks, and we let them know, they may want to close a little bit earlier.
Right.
So it won't have to take as long, but trying to get all the information I can out to the people who need it, that's probably the
Right.
toughest part. But it's as long as you have good management, I use Excel, and we have our platform
Yeah.
software. As long as you're able to manage that,
Yeah.
then you're going to be good.
How do you feel you work more with buyers or sellers?
Sellers, yeah,
For
100%.
sure,
I
right?
hardly ever. The only time I'll speak directly on the phone with a buyer is regarding surveys and things of that nature.
Right.
But we do most email communication with buyers from my end. If
Yeah.
I need, sending them a lien surge, sending them the commitment, estoppel,
Right.
all that's done through email. But
Yep.
sellers, I'm on the phone with them pretty much every day, all day,
Right.
speaking
And
to
so
people.
it's important that sellers and listing agents support their sellers in knowing that the title company is going to be reaching out. That information, we can only do our job
Correct.
as quickly as we have the information to do it. And that oftentimes is coming from the seller.
And that's
Yeah.
to go to your last question regarding the hardest part, that is the hardest part, is getting that information, because that's what takes the time.
Right.
Is trying, following up and trying to get the mortgage statements from them so we can order a payoff. Whether it be so they had a family member pass away, we need a death certificate.
Right.
All those different things can take a lot of time, and especially for older sellers, it's really nice when an agent can go to their home,
And
yeah,
assist,
because they don't.
yes.
A lot of them don't use their phone. They're not tech savvy like that. So
Right.
if they can go to their home and get these items that we need, like, oh man, that's my favorite is when the agent sends a contract and they already have all the
All that
information.
stuff.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
I mean, we can just knock it out.
And that's important too, I think, for realtors to know, is that if you have a transaction that's coming up, we get calls often from our realtors saying this is a probate, or the property is listed in an estate.
Yeah.
What kinds of things,
Or trust.
or
Right.
a trust,
Yeah.
right? What do you need? And a lot of times we won't know exactly what we need because we don't know how far it is in the process sometimes, a probate process, or so we won't know exactly until that commitment comes back. But once it comes back, it's all about dialogue, communication, sharing what you do know, and then being receptive, I think, when we are asking for what we now know we need,
Yeah.
after the title search and all that comes back.
And from my perspective, I don't like to bother the agents too much. I know they're super busy. I don't want
Right.
to hound them. So I initially will reach out to the sellers separately, asking for these items. But if I'm not able to retrieve that in a couple days,
Yes.
I'll just let the agent know, hey, can you just drop them, a little reminder? And that process that I have seems to work pretty well in getting the items that we need. Yeah.
You have any last thoughts? Your first solo episode?
No, I
know.
don't. Yeah, I'm just very grateful.
Yeah.
And it's all one big puzzle, and we're just every day.
I know it is kind of like
we're
a
putting
puzzle,
the pieces,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, do it. So thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you found some valuable information in what we've shared. Have any questions? Be happy to take them. So reach out to us, and feel free to like, comment, and share this episode of Title Tiger TV. Take care. We'll see you next time.